You are currently existing in a state of terminal metabolic drag, and you have been conditioned to perceive it as the good life. You believe that as you capture more environmental energy, as your income scales, as your social status ascends, and as your material territory expands, you are becoming more sovereign. You are hallucinating. In the raw, chaotic arena of the persistence hunt, power is not determined by the amount of energy you process. It is determined by the amount of energy you retain. Most of you are high-entropy organisms, biological batteries that leak energy as fast as they can charge. You have fallen victim to Parkinson's law of resources, the biological tendency for an organism's metabolic expenditure to rise in exact proportion to its caloric intake. We are now presecting the biology of lifestyle creep, showing you why your standard success is actually a terminal metabolic weight, and how the persistence hunter uses strategic insulation to maintain his predatory edge while the unevolved drown in their own surplus. You are currently shining in a world of thermal-seeking predators, and your luxury is the beacon they are following. The pathology of the metabolic leak. In the natural world, when an organism encounters a sudden caloric surplus, a seasonal bloom, a massive kill, or a collapse of a competitor, it does not immediately build a larger nest or spend its precious energy on aesthetic luxury. It stores that energy as fat, a biological hard reserve, and then it returns to its baseline state of vigilant hunger. It understands that the surplus is a temporary anomaly in an environment of eternal scarcity. The modern human, however, has had his survival radar lobotomized by the illusion of infinite growth. When your income increases, your nervous system interprets the surplus not as a winter shield, but as a signal to increase the heat. You buy a larger house, a faster car, and more expensive status symbols. You increase your metabolic baseline, the minimum amount of energy required to sustain your current existence. This is the entropy trap. You have not become more powerful. You have simply become a larger, more visible, and more fragile target for the environment. You have increased your thermal signature without increasing your predatory capacity. Consider the biology of the fur trap. In the avian world, the peacock's tail is a handicap signal. It is a massive, heavy, and useless display that tells the environment, I'm so metabolically efficient that I can waste this energy and still survive. This is the foundation of modern consumerism. You are buying fur, status symbols that serve no functional purpose other than to signal your surplus. But here is the predatory truth. The peacock can only afford the tail because it lives in a low predation environment. You, however, are living in the high volatility landscape of 2026. By increasing your lifestyle expenses, you are growing a peacock's tail in a forest full of wolves. You are making yourself visible to the tax parasites, the status liches, and the systemic resets that target anyone with a visible yield. The sovereign man maintains the appearance of a scavenger while possessing the resources of a king. He keeps his fur short and his claws long. The ratchet effect and biological irreversibility. The masses are currently biological furnaces. They consume massive amounts of energy just to maintain a lifestyle that they don't even enjoy. They are trapped in the ratchet effect, a psychological mechanism where it is easy to increase consumption but metabolically painful to decrease it. Once you acclimate to a higher level of luxury, your brain perceives any return to the baseline as a terminal threat to your status. This is why the high earner is often more of a slave than the low earner. The high earner is carrying a metabolic burden so heavy that he cannot afford to pause the hunt for even a single day. He has no strategic slack. He is a high-voltage organism with no battery, entirely dependent on the continuous flow of energy from a master he despises. He calls his expensive toys assets, but in the language of biology, they are parasitic attachments that drain his life force and narrow his OODA loop. The neurochemistry of the upcycle is a dopamine-driven addiction. Each new purchase, the bigger screen, the faster connection, the more expensive meal, provides a transient spike in dopamine that the brain quickly normalizes. This is the hedonic treadmill. To achieve the same level of satisfaction, you must continually increase the voltage of your consumption. You are chasing a ghost. You are attempting to fill a biological void with external inputs that were never designed to provide lasting security. This internal void is actually your predatory hunger, the drive to achieve sovereignty, and you are misdirecting it toward consumer mimicry. You are trying to buy the feeling of being an apex predator, while the act of buying is exactly what makes you prey. You are trading your time sovereignty, the only real currency in the universe for material drag. Thermodynamics of the apex, stored potential versus radiant heat. In physics, work is the useful application of energy, while heat is the wasted byproduct of inefficiency. Lifestyle creep is the process of turning your work into heat. When you earn $10,000 and spend $9,000 to maintain your image, you are operating at 10% efficiency. You are radiating 90% of your life force into the environment, where it is harvested by the giants and the parasites. The sovereign predator operates as a low thermal organism. He earns $10,000 but maintains a metabolic baseline of $2,000. The $8,000 gap is his stored potential. This is the energy he uses to annex territory, to build his digital fortress, and to wait for the black swan. While the unevolved are forced to hunt every day just to keep their heat on, the sovereign can stay in the silence of the dead zone for years. He has the thermal mass to survive the winter. Visibility is your primary vulnerability. When you display your wealth through lifestyle creep, you are sending a signal to every systemic rent seeker in the ecosystem. Here is a source of excess energy. You attract the lawyers, the regulators, and the social extortionists. You are painting a thermal target on your back. The sovereign man understands the strategy of the scavenger appearance. He keeps his wealth in the dark zone, in gold, Bitcoin, and private trusts. He drives the unassuming vehicle. He lives in the unassuming territory, and he maintains a low-profile metabolism. He is the predator in the grass, invisible until the moment of the strike. He knows that true power is the power that is never seen. The sovereign baseline, establishing the internal law. The first movement of the insulation strategy is the clinical metabolic audit. You must look at every unit of energy you spend and ask, does this increase my predatory capacity, or does it merely increase my thermal signature? If it doesn't help you hunt, hide, or harden, it is a leak. You must have the coldness to perform a surgical extraction of the non-essential. This is not frugality. This is weight management. You are cutting weight for the fight of your life. You must reach a state where your survival baseline is so low that the environment has zero leverage over you. When you can live on 10% of your income, the other 90% becomes pure weaponry. It becomes the capital fire that you use to buy back your time and secure your dynasty. This is the sovereign shift. You must recognize that your comfort is your chain. The giants want you addicted to the upgrade. They want you trapped in a loop of earning and spending until your biological fire is extinguished. Lifestyle creep is the process of building a padded cell and calling it a home. It is the elimination of all hormetic stress from your existence. You are becoming a low-threshold organism that shatters at the first sign of real-world friction. The persistence hunter understands that comfort is a metabolic decay. He intentionally maintains a baseline of friction in his life. He ensures that his internal law is stronger than his external comfort. He is the organism that survives the systemic shock because his body hasn't forgotten how to fight for its own heat. He is lean, mean, and invisible. We must perform a deep clinical dissection of the biology of social signaling. You believe that you are buying the luxury timepiece, the premium membership, or the designer apparel for your own self-expression. This is a cognitive mask. In reality, you are engaged in a high-stakes signaling war with every other organism in your social hierarchy. You are attempting to project dominance through the public display of wasted energy. This is the status parasite, a prehistoric neurological program that forces you to prioritize your rank in the herd over your sovereignty as an individual. The giants of the matrix utilize this program to harvest your surplus before it can ever be converted into dynastic capital. They have turned status into a subscription model, ensuring that you are always one payment away from losing your identity. You are currently renting your social rank from the very people who intend to recycle you. In the natural world, signaling is a survival strategy. An organism displays its vitality to attract mates or to intimidate rivals. However, these signals are typically hard signals. They are backed by real biological surplus. The modern human, however, has transitioned to soft signaling. You are using debt, credit, and leased assets to project a version of yourself that does not exist in the physical ledger. You are creating a biological discrepancy. You are wearing the skin of a lion while possessing the heart of a sheep. This creates a state of systemic fragility. When the environment shifts, when the black swan lands, or the currency resets of 2026 accelerate, the mimics are the first to be exposed. They have no internal meat, only external fur. They are status-rich and resource-poor, and in a reset, they are the primary source of liquidity for the apex predators. The environment of 2026 is a high-frequency filtering event. The giants utilize algorithmic consumption to trigger your status anxiety at every digital turn. They show you what your peers are buying to ensure that you stay in the middling heat of the swarm. For those ready to step outside this cycle and build a private strategic reserve of energy. The protocol 260 provides a strictly described route to building automated YouTube AI empires that act as your primary generators of digital life force. It is a structured roadmap for those who realize that the only status that matters is the status of being unsizable. Once you have achieved digital autonomy, the signaling games of the herd become information noise to be ignored or weaponized. You move from the signaling war to the strategic silence. You stop trying to look rich and you start becoming indestructible. Consider the entropy of the social anchor. Every luxury you add to your life is a new anchor that ties you to your current location and your current income stream. The larger the residence, the more tethers you have to the local tax authority and the local utility grid. The more high maintenance your lifestyle, the more you are anchored to the master who provides the metabolic flow. This is the immobility trap. A true persistence hunter is light. He can pivot his entire operation across borders and across frequencies in a matter of hours because he owns nothing that owns him. He understands that possessions are predatory attachments. He practices clinical minimalism, not as a moral choice, but as a tactical necessity. He ensures that his core infrastructure is portable and his status is internal. He is the gray man who possesses the golden key. The neurochemistry of the upgrade is a form of metabolic sabotage. When you upgrade your lifestyle, your brain experiences a temporary status high, but your baseline anxiety actually increases. This is because your survival radar knows that you have increased your metabolic threshold. You are now harder to feed. You have increased the risk of failure. The unevolved attempt to manage this anxiety by upgrading again, hoping that the next level of luxury will finally provide the feeling of safety they crave. It won't. Safety is found in resource redundancy, not consumption intensity. You must perform a hormonal reset. You must learn to derive status from your ability to withstand rather than your ability to spend. You must become an organism that finds dopamine in the growth of its cold reserve rather than the inflation of its warm lifestyle. We must address the entropy of the visible success. In a predatory environment, visibility is a liability. When you display your wealth through lifestyle creep, you are sending a signal to every parasite in the ecosystem. Here is a source of excess energy. You attract the lawyers, the regulators, and the social extortionists who specialize in wealth reallocation. You are painting a thermal target on your back. The sovereign man understands the strategy of the scavenger appearance. He keeps his wealth in the dark zone in gold, Bitcoin, and private trusts. He drives the unassuming vehicle, he lives in the unassuming territory, and he maintains a low-profile metabolism. He is the predator in the grass, invisible until the moment of the strike. He knows that true power is the power that is never seen. The status parasite is also a thief of focus. When you are preoccupied with maintaining your rank, you are not surveilling the environment for outliers. You are looking inward at the herd, rather than looking outward at the hunt. You are competing for crumbs in a burning house. The apex predator has the cold eye to walk away from the table. He does not care about the approval of the swarm. He cares about the autonomy of the individual. He realizes that prestige is a shackle that keeps the slave in place. He intentionally degrades his public status to increase his private capacity. He is the founder who looks like an employee. He is the owner who looks like a visitor. He is the one who will survive the Great Reset because the giants won't even see him coming. As we conclude this second pre-section of lifestyle creep, you must recognize that your status symbols are biological shackles. The giants want you heavy and visible. They want you proud of your consumption because that pride is the handle they use to lead you to the slaughter. You can continue to upgrade your way into terminal fragility, or you can become the owner of your own signal. You can be the one who mimics, or you can be the one who dominates. The choice is yours, but the signal war of 2026 is becoming a war of attrition. The one who can survive on the least will eventually own everything. Strip the fur, sharpen the claw, and claim your place on the high ground. Recognition of this requirement is the only way out of the mud. Stand up, stop signaling, and start accumulating the power of the ghost. We must perform a deep clinical dissection of the biology of visibility. You believe that living large is the ultimate expression of your personal freedom, a physical manifestation of your victory over the environment. This is a lethal misunderstanding. In the unyielding landscape of the persistence hunt, visibility is vulnerability. Every lifestyle upgrade, the sprawling estate, the high-performance kinetic machine, the exclusive social hierarchy you participate in, exponentially increases your thermal signature on the environmental radar. It transforms you into a high-value target for the systemic parasites, regulators, and social extortionists who thrive on the extraction of surplus energy. We are now bisecting the physics of the visibility trap, showing you why lifestyle creep is a form of strategic suicide and how the apex predator uses thermal masking to hide his reserves while the unevolved are incinerated by their own heat. You are currently shining in a world of thermal-seeking predators, and your luxury is the beacon they are following to your doorstep. The physics of the visibility trap. In nature, bioluminescence is often a death sentence unless it is utilized for a specific temporary predatory strike. If an organism remains bright in the total darkness of the deep sea or the forest floor, it is quickly identified, categorized, and consumed by the hierarchy. Modern consumerism has forced you into a state of permanent bioluminescence. You are broadcasting your yield 24/7 through your social signaling and your material drag. This creates what we call predatory magnetism. You attract the clinical attention of the tax authorities, the regulatory predators, and the professional victims who view your surplus as their rightful harvest. They do not target the gray man living at the baseline. They target the bright organism who is flaunting the yield. You have become a metabolic target. You have increased your internal heat to a point where the environment is now actively searching for a way to cool you down through systematic extraction. Consider the biology of the bright organism. The unevolved believe that by showing their wealth, they are projecting power. They fail to realize that true power is incorporeal. Real dominance does not need a billboard. When you increase your lifestyle, you are essentially buying a larger thermal profile. In 2026, the giants of the matrix utilize high-frequency data and algorithmic surveillance to map the heat of the population. They look for the outliers who are spending, consuming, and displaying. This information is weaponized to calibrate the extraction rate. If you show the system that you can afford a $20,000 a month lifestyle, the system will find a way to make that the new baseline tax. You are voluntarily providing the intel the enemy needs to dismantle your sovereignty. You are the fool who lights a signal fire in a territory controlled by the enemy, hoping to impress the trees. The entropy of fixed dependencies. Lifestyle creep is the process of voluntarily entering into a hostage situation with your environment. Every premium service and high-end dependency you add to your existence is a lever that the giants can use to control your behavior. This is the comfort shackle. If you need the private club membership, the luxury international travel, and the high-status social validation to feel psychologically functional, you are controllable. The matrix can threaten your lifestyle to ensure your compliance with any decree. The sovereign man understands that sovereignty is the absolute ability to walk away. He keeps his thermal signature so low that he has no attachments that the matrix can grasp. He is thermally transparent. He can disappear into the dead zone of the economy at a moment's notice because he has no heat to leave behind. He is the ghost who owns the machine, while you are the component owned by the luxury. We must address the entropy of the fixed cost. Lifestyle creep is the process of turning your variable costs into fixed costs. In the high volatility environment of the 2026 reset, fixed costs are a terminal hazard. They are the rigid structures that shatter when the tectonic plates of the economy move. If your survival floor is $15,000 a month, you are brittle. You have no room for error. The sovereign man ensures that his metabolic core is variable and scalable. He maintains the scavenger's flexibility. He treats his comforts as temporary camps, never permanent fortresses. He is the organism that survives the economic drought because he has the lowest metabolic requirement for continued operation. He is lean enough to survive on the crumbs of the giants, while the mimics are starving for banquets they can no longer afford. Neurochemistry of minimalist dominance. The neurochemistry of minimalist dominance is the hallmark of the thermal-hardened predator. Most humans are biologically incapable of down-regulating their lifestyle because their ancient brain hardware associates less with loss and loss with death. This is the loss aversion trap. When you choose to live below your potential, your brain triggers a scarcity signal that creates profound anxiety. The sovereign man, however, has rewired his reward system through the application of the internal law. He finds thermal comfort in the strategic slack. He derives dopamine from the knowledge of his own invisibility. He feels safe because he is small on the predatory radar. He understands that true luxury is the absence of obligation. He prioritizes freedom of movement over the volume of possessions. He has moved from collecting objects to collecting options. He is a high-option, low-drag organism, hunting in a high-drag, low-option world. Consider the pathology of the padded cell. Lifestyle creep is the process of building a padded cell and calling it a home. It is the total elimination of all hormetic stress from your life. You have the perfect climate control, the automated food delivery, and the softest furniture. You are deconditioning your nervous system. You are becoming a low-threshold organism that shatters at the first sign of real-world friction. The persistence hunter understands that comfort is a metabolic decay. He intentionally maintains a baseline of friction. He takes the cold plunge, he performs the fasted hunt, and he lives in the silence of a sparse environment. He ensures that his internal law is infinitely stronger than his external comfort. He is the organism that survives the systemic shock because his body hasn't forgotten how to fight for its own heat. He is lean, mean, and invisible. The strategic downgrade, hormetic hardening. The first movement of the thermal masking strategy is the clinical downgrade. You must look at your life and identify one luxury that has become a necessity, and you must execute it. You must prove to your nervous system that you are the master of the heat. This is voluntary deprivation as a form of biological hardening. You are conditioning yourself to operate in the cold. You are extracting your identity from your consumption. This hardening is what allows you to maintain your OODA loop when the real downgrade is eventually forced upon the masses by the giants. You have already been there. You have normalized the cold. While the herd is screaming in thermal shock because their lifestyle has been liquidated, you are operating with the cold precision of a predator who has already won. Visibility is a tax that you pay to the world. The more you show, the more you owe. The unevolved pay this tax gladly because they are desperate for the validation of the swarm. The sovereign predator refuses to pay. He keeps his yield hidden in the dark zones we have discussed: gold, Bitcoin, and incorporeal assets. He presents a low energy profile to the world, appearing as a component while operating as a system. He understands that in the predatory landscape of 2026, the only way to protect your surplus is to make it look like it doesn't exist. He is the hunter in the gray coat. He is the shadow that moves through the market without leaving a trace. He has mastered the art of metabolic stealth. As we conclude this third pre-section of lifestyle creep, you must recognize that your visibility is your prison. The giants want you bright and heavy. They want you locked into a lifestyle that you cannot afford to lose, because that is how they control your soul. You can continue to shine until you are harvested by the reset, or you can become the owner of your own invisibility. You can be the one who is seen, or you can be the one who sees. The choice is yours. But the thermal radar of the 2026 economy is scanning for the brightest targets first. Kill the light, harden the core, and claim your place on the high ground. Recognition of this requirement is the only way out of the mud. Stand up, stop shining, and start accumulating the power of the shadow. The final integration of the metabolic hardening strategy is the establishment of the sovereign baseline. You must realize that the environment of 2026 is a massive, self-correcting organism that utilizes lifestyle creep as its primary culling mechanism. The weak are those who allow their external environment to dictate their internal state. Organisms whose biological fire is entirely dependent on the ambient heat of the social machine. The strong are those who maintain a sovereign internal law that is clinically independent of their external yield. To build a dynasty is to maintain the discipline of scarcity in the presence of the surplus. You must become an organism that can process massive amounts of energy without ever increasing its metabolic drag. You are the high-throughput, low-loss engine of the new world. We are now presecting the architecture of the internal law, showing you how to turn your surplus into sovereign weaponry and why your refusal to level up your lifestyle is the ultimate predatory strike against the matrix. The pathology of the externalized identity. Most of you have outsourced your sense of self-worth to your possessions. You believe that you are the estate, the title, and the portfolio. This is a biological surrender. You have placed your identity in a territory that you do not control. When the market fluctuates, your identity fluctuates. When the status of your possessions drops in the eyes of the herd, your self-worth drops with it. You are a reactive component of the economy, a slave to the price discovery of others. The sovereign man, however, maintains an internalized anchor. His baseline is fixed by his own internal law. He knows exactly what he needs to be a functional apex predator, and everything beyond that point is not luxury. It is operational capital. He does not experience his wealth through consumption. He weaponizes it through strategic positioning. He is the founder who still eats the founder's meal, even when he owns the catering empire. He is immune to the thermal fluctuations of the world because his fire is internal. The biology of strategic reserve management is the key to dynastic survival. In the history of the persistence hunt, the lineages that survived the 100-year winters were those that maintained the scarcity mindset during the decade of plenty. They did not expand their lifestyle. They hardened their root. They used the surplus energy to buy territory, intel, and redundancy. They built the sovereign fortress that we have discussed in previous modules. They understood that lifestyle creep is the liquidator of legacies. If you increase your consumption as your income grows, you are performing a one-to-one swap of current energy for current pleasure. You are leaving nothing for the future. You are a biological dead end, a predator who ate his own seed corn. The sovereign man, however, is a time shifter. He sacrifices the now to own the forever. He keeps his current self on a maintenance diet so that his future self can own the entire ecosystem. The social infection and the predatory pact. Consider the entropy of the social circle. Lifestyle creep is rarely a solo performance. It is a peer-driven infection. You upgrade your residence, your vehicle, and your fur because the people in your immediate hierarchy have upgraded theirs. You are competing for relative rank in a group that is also heading toward extinction. This is mutual assured consumption. To survive, you must have the coldness to extract yourself from these high-drag social networks. You must seek the company of those who value strategic capacity over visible consumption. You must build a network of sovereigns who pride themselves on their low thermal signature. This is the secret society of the lean. In this pack, you are not competing to see who can spend the most. You are collaborating to see who can capture the most territory with the least amount of visibility. You are moving from a consumer herd to a predatory pack. The neurochemistry of sovereign satisfaction is the final stage of the apex shift. You must reach a psychological coordinate where you derive more dopamine from the act of withholding than you ever did from the act of consuming. You must feel a sense of predatory pleasure when you walk past the luxury bait of the matrix and realize it has zero power over your nervous system. This is the reclamation of the will. You are proving to yourself every day that you are not a slave to the impulse. You are the master of the metabolism. This internal strength is the invisible armor that will protect you when the real systemic freeze of the 2026 reset arrives. You will be the only organism that doesn't panic when the luxury is removed because you never allowed yourself to need it in the first place. You are the hardened organism in a world of soft parasites. The 10-year lock. A clinical extraction. The first movement of the dynastic baseline strategy is the 10-year lock. You must make a sovereign decree that for the next 10 years, your lifestyle baseline will remain fixed, regardless of how many multipliers your income achieves. Every single dollar of surplus will be diverted with clinical aggression into the hard core, gold, Bitcoin, and digital assets. You are performing a decade of extraction. You are starving the consumer within you to feed the sovereign who will replace him. This 10-year window is the launch phase of your dynasty. If you can maintain the baseline during this phase, you will achieve a level of escape velocity that the mimics cannot even imagine. You will move from the linear hunt to the exponential harvest. You will be the one who owns the machine, while everyone else is just a part being worn down by its friction. Consider the thermodynamics of the sovereign engine. In any closed system, the more energy that is diverted to heat, lifestyle, the less energy is available for work, expansion. By capping your lifestyle, you are creating a high-pressure system within your dynasty. This pressure is what allows you to execute on opportunities that the unevolved cannot even see. When a black swan lands and assets are being liquidated at a 90% discount, the consumer slaves are paralyzed because they have no slack. They are maxed out on their lifestyle. But you, the low-drag predator, have a massive reserve of stored potential. You move in and annex the territory with the cold indifference of a machine. You have become the beneficiary of chaos. You have turned Parkinson's law on its head. Your resources have grown, but your requirements have stayed the same, creating an asymmetric surplus that makes you a god in a world of paupers. The environment of 2026 is a great sifting. The linear slaves are being separated from the asymmetric sovereigns. The ones who will survive are those who have mastered their own internal law. They are the ones who can live like scavengers while thinking like emperors. They have decoupled their happiness from their consumption. They understand that comfort is the enemy of the hunt. They have thermal mass, they have invisibility, and they have sovereign capital. They are the persistence hunters who never stop moving while the rest of the world was hibernating in their padded cells. They are the architects of the new world. As we conclude this pre-section of lifestyle creep, you must recognize that your comfort is your chain. The giants want you addicted to the upgrade. They want you trapped in a loop of earning and spending until your biological fire is extinguished and your legacy is liquidated. You can continue to upgrade your way into the recycling bin of history, or you can become the owner of your own internal law. You can be the one who consumes, or you can be the one who dominates. The choice is yours. But the entropy of the machine is accelerating. The safe path is a path to the thermal limit. Strip the drag, harden the core, and claim your place on the high ground. Recognition of this requirement is the only way out of the mud. Stand up, stop upgrading, and start accumulating the power of the eternal.